Kia ora tātou, welcome back to the Wargaming Den. Another game of Kings of War for you this week. In this week's game, my Elves will be taking on Gordon's Nightstalkers. We're going to be playing the control mission, and as usual, the game will be at 2,000 points. Let's have a look at my list this week. Unfortunately, I missed the recent tournament. I had a problem with one of my eyes, which meant that I wasn't able to drive or see very well. So I had quite a bit of time off work. It's getting better, but it meant that this was the first chance I'd had for a game for about a month. So decided to give the Elves a bit of a run this week, and I've tweaked things a wee bit. I've taken the two Palace Guard regiments that I always take. I just like the flexibility of the regiments. I've downgraded the Sea Guard Horde just down to a regiment this time round, so that's a wee bit different. I've got the Quicksilver Lancers regiment and the Silver Breeze regiment, and I've given them the brew of strength so that they can do a wee bit more damage in hand to hand. Got a Drakon Horde, an Elven King who's on a mount, just one wizard this week with Lightning Bolt and the Inspiring Talisman, and then Kalar's Hunter formation, the Drakon Lord and the two Drakon regiments. So I've got 11 units and 22 units strength. Now let's have a look at Gordon's list. Gordon took the Nightstalker list that he's been smashing me with the last few games up to no surrender in Christchurch, a tournament that was held a couple of weekends back. He went 5-0 for the weekend, managed to rampage his way across numerous battlefields and took out first place quite comfortably with that list. So he's decided to tweak it and maybe make it slightly less potent in his current form, and he's been working on some scarecrows for quite a while, so he's managed to get those finished. They look really cool, and he's added 2 hordes of scarecrows, which probably aren't as powerful as the butchers he had been using, but they are capable of chaffing up stuff. They've got a really high nerve, they're really cheap, and so I think they make an interesting addition to his list. He's down to just 1 butcher horde. He's got 2 mine screechers rather than the 3 he had been using. A feed horde, which he's given the brew of sharpness, so they've got 24 attacks hitting on 3s. They're pretty nasty, got to watch out for those. 2 soulflower regiments. He's still got the dread fiend. He's added a horror, and just to make my life miserable, the horror has the Veil of Shadows 8, who then tends to use with Essentia to really make her a nasty little combat machine. And of course he's got that Banshee with the Resonant Chorus and Zephyr Crown 1-2 combination, which is quite nice as well. So he's got 12 units. I'm guessing his unit strength's about 20. Let's have a look at deployment.
Okay, our first game in a few weeks. Now the mighty Nightstalkers, fresh from their victory in Christchurch, have been changed a bit though. We've got some very cool looking scarecrow hordes down to 2 mine screechers, and then he's got the fiends and the butchers and the soul flayers and the usual run of characters, so it should be interesting. And they're up against my elves, which are pretty heavy on the flyers. So I've got a regiment of Drakons part of the formation. I've got Silver Breeze, Quicksilver Lancers, Palace Guard and Sea Guard, and then over here I've got the other regiment and a horde Drakons and a lord on a Drakon. So let's get ready to rumble.
Okay, so here we have our deployment. As you can see, Gordon's basically just going to fight over 2/3 of the table. He's got his scarecrows protecting his flank, and they're in front of his mine screechers. He's got all his heavy hitting units over here. Control these 2 central quadrants are worth 2 points each, and the outside 4 are worth 1 point each. So Gordon's looking to capture this one and take these ones as well. I've set up kind of in 2 battle groups. I've got the Sea Guard, who I'm wanting to use as chaff in front of my Palace Guard. I've got the Wizard nearby with the Inspiring Talisman, and then I've got both my cavalry units and some Drakons and the king over the side. I want to try and get the Drakons round and behind his lines and cause a bit of mischief if I can, and concentrate my shooting. The idea being that my fast wing, which is my Drakon regiment and my Drakon horde and a Drakon lord, they want to swing round and try and force Gordon's hand a wee bit on the flanks there. That's my plan anyway, so let's see how we get on. Let's look at turn 1.
Turn 1 from the Elves. So I've moved forward on the flank here, concentrated all my shooting against a unit of soul flayers and managed to kill them rolling 9 on my dice after having done 7 wounds. So very successful start for the Elves. Roll on turn 1 Nightstalkers.
Okay, and here's a bit of an overview. So I pushed up my nimble Drakon regiment as far as they could. I've got the horde coming in behind them. Sea Guard and Palace Guard have advanced onto the hill. My both cavalry units advanced just beyond the wood there, and I pushed up the Drakons, hoping that I gave them quite a few targets to try and if he hit the Drakons, I was hoping to be able to charge with one of these cavalry regiments. I managed to kill a Soul Flare regiment that was here through combined fire from my Silver Breeze, my Sea Guard, and also the Wizard. So I got very lucky to take out a unit in the first turn, so I was very happy with that.
Okay, bottom of turn 1, the Nightstalkers have destroyed my Drakons over there and have chaffed things up a wee bit, and they've also wavered my Silver Breeze. So turn 2 for the Elves about to begin.
Okay, and here you can see a bit of an overview of Gordon's turn. So he's turned one of his Scarecrow units to counter the threat of my Drakons. He's moved the Dreadfiend as far forward as he can. It's usually used as a chaff piece in our games, and he's done that here to try and block my Quicksilver Lancers. He also managed to waver the Silver Breeze. He destroyed the Drakons. I'd pushed those too far up, hitting them with the Soul Flayers and also with the Fiends. There was no way they were going to take that much damage and still be round. Over here, he used his Mind Screechers to Wind Blast, and he pushed back both my Palace Guard regiments and also the Sea Guard. So those Wind Blasts are already starting to come into their own. And here, the Quicksilvers, I think you can just see Essentra there, and she, with the support of a Veil of Shadows from the horror here, had maybe 9 or 10 attacks and put 5 or 6 wounds, 7 wounds on the Silver Breeze by the looks of it, and then wavered them. So good first turn. Turn 1, we're already in the thick of the fighting.
Okay, turn 2, the Elves, the Quicksilvers have charged into the Butchers. Over in the centre, the Palace Guard and the Sea Guard managed to kill the Dread Fiend, and my king, you may be able to just see him, has done a couple of wounds on the spellcaster there, turning off the spell. So happy with that. Got 1 unit and wounded a couple.
Okay, and here we go with my turn 2. So I retreated the Silver Breeze into the wood here, hoping that that would protect them a bit against the Fiends or the Soul Flayers. My Palace Guard and my Sea Guard, they both attacked the Dread Fiend in the flank and destroyed that. My king charged the horror, put a couple of wounds on her, turned off the spell casting for the turn. The Quicksilver Lancers, maybe a bit of a sacrificial move, but decided I wanted to try and put a few wounds on the butchers and maybe slow them down a bit and give myself a bit of a chance here to try and deal with these threats over here. And I also got lucky with some lightning bolts and managed to waver one of the Mind Screechers. On the far flank, pushed around the Drakon regiment as far as I could, trying to put some pressure on this flank, and same moving the Drakon Horde and Drakon Lord forward to try and put pressure on this flank in time. But I'm heavily engaged on my left hand flank here with my various infantry units and cavalry. So let's have a look and see how Gordon responds.
Okay, successful turn 2 for the Nightstalkers. They killed the sacrificial Quicksilver Lancers. They also got the Silver Breeze with the Fiends over there. And checked up some Palace Guard just in there with the character. I think it was Essentra, the Soul Flares and the Stormwind. Soul Flares and the Scarecrows and the Butchers cleaned out the Quicksilvers. So on to turn 3. It has been very bloody first 2 turns.
And here we have a bit of an overview shot. So down here, the Fiends are about to clean out the Quicksilvers in the forest here. The Essentra has charged my Palace Guard here, did maybe 5 or 6 wounds, I think. In here, the Quicksilvers are in a world of hurt. 60 attacks from the Scarecrows. They've got Butchers in the front, and then they've got another 24 attacks from the Soul Flares that just had enough room to squeeze in here. So yeah, the Quicksilvers weren't going to survive that, unfortunately. The Mind Screechers moved over here to support as well, and the other Scarecrows have moved back a wee bit further into the terrain, hoping to use that against my Drakons on turn 3. So yeah, successful turn for Gordon.
Video. Okay, so the Elves, my Drakons, all of them attacked the Scarecrows. Did about 11 wounds, got them up to a 19 on their nerve check. Didn't quite enough. My Palace Guard over here got about 5 or 6 wounds on those Scarecrows. My other Palace Guard and my King killed Essentra. And now we're about to be counterattacked by some scary Nightstalkers. Go turn 3 to Gordon.
Okay, turn 3 from the Elves was quite interesting. It had lots of choices and a few tough decisions to make. I ended up attacking Essentra with both the King and the Palace Guard. If I'd just sent in the Palace Guard, I could have potentially killed her. She had a few wounds on her, and then if I was lucky, advance on after the combat and into the flank of the Fiends. I just didn't rate it. I needed to do quite a few wounds and then roll pretty high on a nerve check to do that. So I decided to send the King in. The other option with the King had been to send him in to turn off the shooting here again. The Sea Guard weren't able to charge anything. They fired their bows, might have been at the Mind Screechers or something, didn't do a great deal of damage with stealthy. And the Palace Guard here were just sent in to try and slow down the Scarecrows a wee bit as well. So over here, I was a wee bit unlucky not to take out the Scarecrows. I rolled high enough on my nerve check, but it was pretty high nerve needed the first roll, but not on the second. But Gordon had done what he needed to do by moving back to make sure that I was hitting on 4s rather than 3s, and that made all the difference there. So that was good tactical move by Gordon. So things are still looking pretty close at this stage, and let's have a look at how Gordon responds.
Turn 3 from the Nightstalkers has got rid of the nimble and flying on some of my Dracons. Gordon got a bit unlucky. He's wavered Palace Guard here. He wavered the Sea Guard, rolled a 3. He needed a 4 to kill them, and he's also taken out the other Palace Guard there. So I've lost quite a few units, but still in this game as we roll on to turn 4 in a very brutal game.
And here we have that overview of that turn. So you can see the Palace Guard have been killed by the Fiends here. Really lucky not to lose that Sea Guard. They're wavered though, and so are my Palace Guard, which means that neither of these units are going to be able to do anything next turn. The King's going to have to do all the heavy lifting. That's not that likely, unfortunately. Over here, the Scarecrows did a couple of wounds. This here, I think, is the Banshee. Came in here against my Lord on a Drakon, but didn't do any wounds. And also the Mind Screech did a wound on the Drakon regiment here, which meant that they lose their nimble and flying. So things are still looking interesting, but it's been pretty brutal game so far.
Elves got rid of the Scarecrows, got rid of the Banshee. We have wavered the Mind Screech there. Most of my troops over here were wavered, but my King got lucky and he wavered the Butchers. So over to Gordon's turn 4. Things are getting interesting.
So not a lot I could do down in this area, except the King managed to get a lucky waver against those Butchers. My Palace Guard are in trouble here, and the Sea Guard aren't going to survive what's about to hit them either. So things are looking pretty dicey on that side. Doing better over here. Wavered that Mind Screech, took out the Banshee and the Scarecrows to open up my ability to get into some of these units. So let's have a look at Gordon's turn.
Okay, Gordon's turn 4. He finished off, as expected, the Sea Guard and the Palace Guard. Also, the King was destroyed by the Butchers. So I'm left with 3 units of Dracons on the board. Total unit strength of not much. I need to kill 2 or 3 units of Gordons as we move into turn 5.
So another successful turn there for the Nightstalkers. 3 of my units destroyed, which leaves me, as I said, just with my Dracons unit strength of 1, 4, 3, 2. So 6. We've got 3, 6, 9, 12, 13, 14. There's still a Mind Screech up here as well. So things are not looking good at this particular stage for the Elves, but I'll see if I can get a couple more units and pull it back a wee bit closer on my turn 5.
Okay, turn 5. I managed to roll a 4 and wavered the Mind Screech over there. I killed the Butchers and I got a very lucky waver roll against the Soul Flayers. So on to Gordon's turn 5.
So there we have it. Butchers finally died, and a waver over here against the Soul Flayers. Managed to not kill that Mind Screech again. That is a real problem. I really needed to have killed it last turn ideally, so that my Dracons could have come over here to support my other troops. So the Mind Screech is being a real pain. But to his credit, Gordon has just kept retreating it when it's been wavered, making sure that I continue having to fight in that rough terrain. So that makes me hitting on 4s rather than 3. So he's been doing all he can to minimize my attacks against his unit. So that's, clever play there.
Turn 5 from the Nightstalkers. The very nasty fiends with Brew of Sharpness chewed their way through my Drakon Horde, which means I'm left with a Drakon Lord and my Drakons that keep wavering the Mind Screech. So not enough, I don't think, to be able to claim enough quarters on turn 6, but we'll see how we go. Okay, turn 6, the Drakon Lord died. 5 wounds on the Drakon Regiment over there and just failed to waver them. So fortunately there is a turn 7. So I've only got one option, and that's to kill something.
In the end, I decided discretion was the better part of valor, and I just flew the Dracons over there to claim that quadrant and get 1 point. So at least it wasn't a complete whitewash. I wasn't going to kill either the Scarecrows or the Fiends over there. So that was it. Game in the end to Gordon. And there we have it. So in the end, a very comfortable win to the Nightstalkers, 5-1. Though it was close up to about turn 4, and then the wheels fell off well and truly for the Elves in the last couple of turns. But it was a good, fun, close game. So thoroughly enjoyed it. Let's have a look at a few of the lessons learned. I pushed up the Dracons on turn 1, hoping on turn 2 to be able to get in behind Gordon and cause some mischief. They were within range of the Soul Flayers and things, but I was hoping that having my Knights there was going to be a bit of a deterrent. And I pushed my Knights up because I wanted to get into range with my Quicksilvers, and also wanted my archers and my wizard to be able to fire onto one. So I pushed forward. In retrospect, maybe I should have refused that flank a bit more and waited for my flanking force of the Dracons on turn 2 or 3 to be in position before pushing forward. Might have worked a bit more in my favour. Not really sure. And my Drakon Horde, I was thinking about deploying them in here, but I was a wee bit worried about the Mind Screechers. If they were in here, potentially they could have moved over here a bit quicker and again put some pressure on. But I decided I'd put them in behind the regiment that had Spellguard on them, make it a wider flanking force. I was humming and hawing before I deployed, and maybe more central could have been useful. Couple of things that didn't help my cause later in the game. When my Dracons went in against the Scarecrows, not killing them in that first turn didn't really help. I got bogged down as a result in there. The other thing that did bog me down was the Mind Screech with my Drakon. They really needed to take it out a lot quicker than they did. It took 3 turns, and that meant that my Drakon regiment wasn't able to come in and support as I was hoping it was needing to on turn 4 and 5. So yeah, a few lessons to be learned, there always are, but I really do enjoy using my Elf army. It's an army that requires quite a bit of maneuver. It's got lots of flying units, as you can see. It's got the fast cavalry and a very small compact center. So it's a bit fragile, but it's fun to use. I probably killed more of Gordon's Nightstalkers than I've managed to do in any of the previous battles. So I was more than happy with that. This version of his list, the Scarecrows, a good chaff. They're blimmin' tough to get through. You need to hit them hard, but I think it is a wee bit less potent than the version that he took to the tournament, and it made for a good, fun, close battle. So looking forward to having another game against Gordon soon. So thanks for watching. Until next time, ka kite anō.